Biodiversity. What is it? Who cares? Put simply, biodiversity is the variety of life within a particular ecosystem or community. A high amount of biodiversity provides us with endless gains called ecosystem services. Some examples you might have heard of include the wood your house is made of, the food you eat, and the water you drink. It also has unique educational, recreational, and spiritual values towards many people. On the other hand, a low amount of biodiversity gives us things like the potato famine, a probable banana-less future, and cool places to live that look like this. Anyways, the biodiversity I'm concerned with takes place in the wonderful state of Illinois. If my head to my toes was the amount of prairie in Illinois before settlers arrived in the state, the lint in my belly button would be the amount of prairie that is left today. That is less than 0.1%. Some of the things that have led to this impressive reduction in our native tallgrass prairie include agricultural conversion, urbanization, and invasive species. Invasive species reduce biodiversity by outcompeting native species for sunlight, space, and nutrients, making it even harder to preserve and manage our current prairies. While prairie management does its best to prevent and pull out harmful invasives, it's pretty much impossible. Imagine if the prairie was able to protect itself through biodiversity. An important biodiversity study was done by Charles Elton, who thought that more biodiverse communities would be less likely to be damaged by invasive species, since a bunch of different unique plants would cover more niches, or living requirements. If all the niches are taken up, then the invasive species has no room to settle there. The biodiversity that Elton is talking about can be assessed by using what is called functional diversity. Functional diversity looks at the variety of biological processes, functions, or characteristics of an ecosystem, which are defined by functional traits. Functional traits are the characteristics, which can be morphological, biochemical, structural, phenological, or behavioral, that influence the performance or fitness of a species. If there are many species that have different functional traits, a community is considered to have a high functional diversity. In my project through the Chicago Botanic Gardens, we are assessing functional diversity's effect on resistance to invasive species by looking at how prairie plots of different compositions affect introduced invasive plants. In 2017, my mentor Adrian and her research team at the Morton Arboretum created a site full of small prairie plots that all have different compositions of plants designed to have different levels of diversity. This spring, 3 invasive species were planted into each of these plots. In theory, these invasive plants would have grown at different rates depending on the diversity of the plot they were planted in. We hypothesized that the invasive species will grow better in the less diverse plots and worse in the more diverse plots. To measure this, I have taken plant diameter and height and survivorship data on each of these plots to see if higher diversity does actually hinder growth of invasive species.